back to the channel, fool. Thanks for tapping in. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe for videos like this.
So not only do we have hail, it's 47 degrees out. Just down there past those silos, it was 85 degrees. We got hail fog because the ground is so cold. And lightning and a supercellular thunderstorm. Look at this, guys. This is crazy.
What the was this caught on the monitor? Claws, horns, what the is this? And it's in the baby's room?
Vai, tá só pouquinho de força, se liga. Pegou o vento de cima. Ixi, como tá esticado. Noventão. O bagulho tá com a força, mano.
W czasach Atlantydy Thoth
in Atlantean times was king and ruler, and he ruled for 50,000 years throughout Atlantis. If we go back 13,000 years, let's say 11,000 BC, there was a very similar situation that is happening now that was happening then. A potential cataclysm that was going to happen then. They think that they can stop the cataclysm that happened when Atlantis fell. Atlantis wasn't some idyllic paradise. It also had wars, and it was also, you know, negativity went on there, but it was a far more advanced civilization than the one we have now. So genetically manipulating and taking DNA from here, taking DNA from there, Project Ibis. There's also a female parallel project to it where they were trying to bring in female deities too. They were looking to bring in the partners, the female partners, to pair them up with the males. Let's use the example of Isis. They went and took DNA from the tomb or the body of Isis, and then they manipulated it and then placed it into some women's wombs are stargates, are stargate openings. Okay, so they also have the knowledge of which women's wombs are stargates. So then by manipulating DNA, placing this here, placing this there, then placing it into the womb of the female, then they can draw through the Stargate if the child is born at the exact time and the exact date, and then they can draw that entity in and then birth. We're understanding that the female is the receiving energy and the giving energy. Obviously, there are two ways. One is naturally a male and a female coming together. And then the other way is the manipulated way, where they will, like they track through Project Oak Tree to find these. I think there's only very few women who have these specific stargates, 1111 stargates in their wombs, and they found those and they tracked those. So the mother has the child. They've got to make sure that the child doesn't look completely different to its parents, otherwise it's going to look very, very bizarre. So what they do is they take small amounts of DNA from the carrier mother and small amounts of DNA from the supposed father, integrate that into the child. This was primarily an MI6 project, but it was called Zygote. It was called the MI7 Zygote Project. MI5 would be that takes care of what happens in the UK. MI6 takes care of international. But what most people don't know is there is MI1 to MI9 all the way through. Project Paperclip.
Queen of Miami.
Oh.
And the burgers couldn't wait to hit the grill.
I'll speak for myself. I never thought that I would be offering an apology to Jeffrey Epstein. I think of all the times I've maligned that guy, all the times I'm accused him of crimes, of blackmailing people, of trafficking children, to powerful figures around the world on behalf of global intel services. And then I learned yesterday from Attorney General Pam Bondi, that's totally untrue.
Yes, yeah.
The guy killed himself after 36 days in prison for no reason. He was a billionaire. Mm-hmm. He had no clients. He'd done nothing wrong other than get like naughty massages 20 years before. And the guy killed himself, another pointless death. And then his best friend, former girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, doing 20 years in prison for no crime. There are no victims.
Yes, it's a victimless crime. They're obviously persecuted by the state.
Yes.
They're political prisoners, really. It's The Hague should come in and do an investigation, or we're watching one of the most systematic government cover-ups of all time.
So look, TikTok, look what I found at the beach. Is this magma or what is this, guys? I know somebody knows. And look, when we broke it open, look at. Here we go. Look at. Dang. So y'all, am I tweaking or just worth something? Like, cause I know one thing, maybe it could just be crystals, but it's just the rock that amazes me because it's like, what is this? This is not a rock.
That came from a
volcano. This is magma, guys. And how did I get magma in Los Angeles, California? Nobody knows.
God,
but somebody comment and let us know what's up. Because if I'm rich, it's like, I'm not even...
There's no way. There is no way. This is a Korean Jesus. Oh my God, there is no way.
There is a website you can log. There is English.
You guys think this is Jesus? Korean
Yes.
Jesus?
No, there is not Korean Jesus. 2,000 years ago, Jesus was a human being, right? That is human being. He came as second advanced Jesus Christ.
He's Korean?
He's Korean.
Oh, Jesus is Korean.
Who says he is not? You never know what you're missing.
What's his name?
What is his name? If you go to it, you can read. And his name will be there. You know what?
Okay.
You have no idea what you're missing. Heaven is coming to earth. So if you read it,
I'm okay.
well, you got the rules. You have nothing to lose, right? Take a look.
Thank you.
I'm saying though, if they don't get this freaky ass restaurant on out of the town, like, is this even PG-13? I'm some spread and buns.
They didn't have to put that much cake on the piece of bread, just saying.
Okay, we shouldn't have stayed. Please keep going. Please keep going. Please keep going. Oh my God, go, 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 go. Oh my God, please keep going. Okay. That palm tree is kind of in the back.
Bananas, you're not supposed to eat them before you go to bed because it releases something in your brain and it makes you have the most wild dreams ever.
Holy
dude, yeah.
Are you being serious?
I swear to God, I Googled it. We went grocery shopping the other day, me and CJ, right?
Congratulations.
First time ever.
Congratulations.
And then one of the things CJ got, he got some fruit. Now, I'm a snacky kind of guy. Anything that I can just grab, open, eat, that's my bag. I don't like the preparation. I don't like the cleanup. I saw the banana sitting on our counter, and I was like, easy snack.
Easy.
Health.
Potassium.
Health is wellness. At this time, it was 11:30 at night. I like to snack before bed. There was Sun Chips or there was the banana. I went and got the banana.
Oh, wow.
I get naked. I'm opening the banana. And now I'm laying in my bed, right? Spider-Man's on.
good movie.
Such a great movie.
Such a great ending.
So I'm watching Spider-Man, right?
Oh my God.
All right, I finished the whole banana. I downed the banana. Time to go to naps. The most wicked dreams I've ever had.
You had a laced fruit?
It was one of those dreams you wake up and I'm crying. And then you were like, still a part of my life. And I was like, no.
Okay, I've just got off the phone with Ethan Guo, the 19-year-old pilot that's been detained in Antarctica. And it's not looking good. Firstly, for anyone that doesn't know, Ethan is trying to raise $1 million for cancer research by becoming the first person ever to fly to all 7 continents solo. He's been traveling for over 360 days and only has one continent left. The one that he's currently detained on. Antarctica. And if you're thinking, detained by who? No one owns it. Well, that's where things get tricky, because on the 28th of June, he took off from Chile heading to Argentina when he says the weather conditions got so bad he had to declare an emergency and divert to land at Tennant Marsh, which is a public airfield in Antarctica. And when he did, everything seemed okay. He was met by a fire response team, and after a bit of a conversation and an hour later, they said he was clear to take off again, but he should file a new flight plan with the control tower. However, before he could, another group of people, this time in black clothing, approached him and said he was under arrest. He would only later find out that this was the Chilean Navy. After arresting Ethan, they searched his plane, moved it into a hangar, and then later that night, they took his phone, they strip searched him, and then placed him in a room under guard supervision and did not allow him to contact the consulate or use Wi-Fi. Now, here is where things get crazy, because Chile has been trying to claim this part of Antarctica since 1940, about a year after World War II broke out. But under the Antarctic Treaty, which they also signed in 1961, no country can claim sovereignty over Antarctica. So that begs the question, what legal basis do they have to apply Chilean law to a non-citizen outside of Chile? And that's not to mention that Ethan declared an emergency to land, which in the aviation world typically grants you immunity from laws and repercussions pending an investigation. From their perspective, they are saying that Ethan lied about the emergency, saying that his social media posts about his goal trying to land on all 7 continents suggests evidence for intent rather than a real emergency. And now things have got real bad. He said that they've now placed a 90-day travel ban on him from leaving Chile while they investigate. Problem is though, he's not in Chile and he can't even get there because he says that they won't allow him to fly the plane and there's no boats or planes to get back there for months. He says he can't even leave the Navy barracks without someone having to go with him. So he's now stuck in Antarctica in peak winter, hoping that his legal team can somehow get him out. But at least he's got his phone back now. So I'll keep speaking with him and keep you guys updated as we know more.
This is a food, the top, or do you fall down? See, no.
I knew onions were strong, but not that strong.
Right? Remember the shooting at the Uvalde school shooting? See, McConaughey, Khan. He was the one, the spokesperson. He went to the White House and he was doing a terrible acting job crying. We need to take care of this. And they laugh. They literally laugh. Like you'll see the Sandy Hook dad, a day after the shooting, he goes on the microphone and he's like, okay, are we on? My daughter.
Why do they show this footage then? Why don't they edit it?
No, they want us. That's exactly right. They want us to see it. They want us to know. Like we're figuring it out. More people are figuring it out. When I first started this journey 5 years ago, everyone thought I was crazy.
O que está acontecendo? Pegou fogo em tudo.
Okay, this is new. Look at this mole by my eye. There's like 5 hairs coming out of it. I've never plucked a hair from that mole.
Do you think the moon's real?
No, absolutely not. The Dogon tribe in Africa talks about the time before the moon. Literally, there was a time before the moon, which means what? Which means the moon was implanted there. It was not made by, quote unquote, the original OG God. It was implanted there, and like literally, there's a whole science about how it connects to Saturn and how it's literally like an energy suck station, how it's influencing the water and the magnetism of the reproductive cycle, the hormonal cycle. We're water, we're 70-something% water. If it affects the ocean, is it affecting us? Absolutely. Saturn is communicating with the moon, and there's like a connection there, and it's pulling energy, and there was a time before the moon, which means it was planted there. Yeah.
Saturn, huh?
Yeah.
I feel like I've heard that Saturn is like Satan or something. And when you listen to Saturn, I don't know if you've ever heard of sort of this tone that comes from each planet, but when you get to Saturn, it sounds like hell.
I haven't particularly sat and listened to Saturn, but yeah, I'm not scared. Like, maybe I'll listen to it, yeah.
Big fan of whatever this is.
It's hard to talk about dimensions, but I was standing behind an alien in a spacecraft, just a small one, which I understand get bigger and smaller depending upon. At any rate, he said, "You shouldn't be here." And I said, "I know, I realize this is a strange place, but before I go, could I ask you a question?" And this is really a very strong memory in my head. I don't remember what I had for dinner last night, but this is in there. I'm telling myself I'm silly again. Dude, it's not in there. At any rate, and he said, "Okay." And I said, "How do you get from here to Alpha Centauri? We can't do that. The only thing that we think about is I have to go really fast for a really long time. How is it that you can go to Alpha Centauri without any problem?" And essentially he said, "You wouldn't understand." So I said, "I agree that that's a problem. However, I know that you have access to my mental thoughts. I mean, you're not talking to me with your mouth. You have access to my mental thoughts, and I understand that. Can you use what information I have in my head and try to explain it to me?" And he said, "Well, do you know what a Rubik's Cube is?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, my son can do them in 2 minutes." He says, "Okay, so imagine a Rubik's Cube, but not necessarily just the 6 sides. Just imagine the concept of a Rubik's Cube." And I said, "Okay. Now imagine on each one of the tiles on the Rubik's Cube has a chart of the elements, an elemental chart." And you say, "Oh, yeah, I know what that is. You know, I've had science in school and everything." He says, "Now, on each of the other 5 surfaces, there's also elemental charts." And I said, "So, okay, but what's the deal?" And he said, "Well, you're thinking about going that way very fast for a very long time." What he didn't say to me, which I'm thinking right now, there's no space and time. I'm only thinking that right now. That wasn't part of the explanation. And he says, so what you do to get to Alpha Centauri is you just twist the cube. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, I told you wouldn't understand. And he said, when the periodic table occurs in a different place, you're at that place. And that's just a very crude explanation. But you have to stop thinking about go that way for a long time very fast.
Voilà.
Florida is definitely running on GTS servers.
Are they doing some of this, let's call it hypnosis through the news?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you watch the news again, let's just take a talk show, for example. And any talk show would apply. I'm just using this as an example. Let's take John Oliver. Last Week Tonight, I think is the name of the show. There will be a strange fact that is very hard to back up or has a lot of stuff where you could argue against it. Really weird, bizarre fact or something said to make you feel like you hate someone or someone's stupid, someone did something bad. And before you can logically process it, there's a joke immediately. And to get you to not process that fact, now you're hearing the entire audience laugh. So that's triggering your tribal response of, oh, that line was funny because there's 150 people laughing. So it's triggering this animal response in our brain to automatically accept this information.
Oh,
and
yes.
that's just one example. I could go through a whole show and show you 100 other hypnotic techniques and brain hacking techniques that are being used in all these shows.
What does it mean if a crow is following you?
When I see crows are very intelligent beings, but I do believe that crows have the ability to talk to the spirit world. They have the ability to talk to the other side. So when you see a crow, it's very possible that something from the other side is trying to send a message through the crow. It is what it is. And
this has got to be the clearest stinking photo I've ever seen of a reptilian in my life. I'm not usually someone who goes down the reptilian. I know who David Icke is, but I'm usually not someone who goes down that reptilian conspiracy trail. However, this picture of this man's wife, apparently they're saying that something glitched and then her form changed. This man's wife, this man right here, this is his wife right here. And her true form showed up and it was caught on camera. And so anyway, this is already incredibly interesting. So I did a little bit of investigating, and if you run this photo through AI, this is what you get. Get this. Stuff like this. No error level detected on this. Now this could be, I mean, you could fake this. You could still fake this. However, I ran it through a different one. And then, you know, you can run it through just about any AI. You can run any photo through any AI or any video. But then again, I don't know what kind of filters are on the AIs.
It's not arranged, it's 100% forced marriage.
Illuminati is the 12 disciples of Jesus Christ that still live today. That's Illuminati. The devil always want to take something and make it his. Illuminati is mine. The 12 disciples of Christ that still live to this day, that act as angels, that help people, that do the right thing righteously, that test people when they ask God for certain things. And then they get tested so much that they don't even want the gift no more. This is what I'm saying, bro. You can't put people in position to answer questions that actually know who these people are.
Bro, what kind of heat is the sun throwing, y'all? What kind of sun do they have? Oh my goodness, y'all. What is going on with our sun? The whole car is melted and warped like it's been through a solar baptism, y'all. Like the sun was literally sending personal solar flares at this car, y'all. This is in Mexico. This car is literally sitting at the border where, on the American side and when you have to cross in order to go to Mexico. I don't know how long that car has been there for, but the sun is angry at it. Look at this one over here. This guy bought a brand new car and he parked it outside of his house, y'all. And he came outside and he found out his window was warped from the sun. Look at this. And he tried to contact the manufacturer about it so they can fix the situation, and they said they can't do anything about it because it's weather related. This has to do with the sun, the new sun. It is so hot in Arizona, about 106 degrees, and tires are melting. But it's not just 106 degrees. This is a new type of degree now because the sun is a lot different, y'all. 10 years ago, 106 degrees in Arizona, you would not see things like this. But now you have things like this happening. This is a new sun, y'all. But I'm telling y'all, man, y'all better go out there, respect the sun because it's going to be here for a very long time.
How old are you?
I low-key stopped counting, bro.
Yeah, how do you look so young? What's your secret?
Hairline. Like blush.
Illuminati.
Yeah, I love my people, but I think I'm walking, gang. I'm finna take a walk.
Big homie said, 5 stars or you not making it home.
This might be the scariest video by accident. Look, okay. So originally it was just this girl. She's like getting ready and she's just filming herself, right? Mm-hmm. What happens during the video? She gets a call from an Uber driver. And she gets a call from the Uber driver. Here, I'm gonna pause it real quick. Yeah. Gets a call from the Uber driver that's driving their kid somewhere. Now check this out. The Uber driver says, hey, so I have your kid here and I've been on the market for a kid. I'm thinking of keeping him. What? Listen, the Uber driver says this. Listen.
Did you just You picked up my child. Why are you calling me from his phone?
I want to buy a child. It's in marketplace. Maybe this is your son.
Please, can you come back? We can talk about it in person.
He's trying to take the kid.
Sorry.
And they have it on camera.
Sorry, I don't think so. Yo, fam.
Crazy. And they hung up. Crazy.
Uber?
Yeah, an Uber driver took the kid.
Wait, why was the kid by himself?
So that's another thing.
Yeah.
So that's another problem. A lot of people, obviously, that reacted to it are saying they shouldn't have ever put a kid in an Uber first off by himself.
Time, it's still very...
Bro, that's kidnapping,
yeah,
bro.
Yeah.
That's kidnapping, fam. It's messed up. And imagine you get a call from the Uber saying that.
Oh, no, that's insane.
Yeah, I think it's even worse that he called.
Yeah.
Hey, I think I'm gonna take this kid.
Yeah,
that's even crazy.
It's like a bragging type thing.
That's even crazier. That's dark.
Remember eating, and then I don't remember anything until I woke up. But when I woke up is when it really got weird. So
you ate first and then you blacked out?
Yeah, I ate first and then I blacked out. So she put something in my food that made me completely black out. So trip out on this. So the next point from me eating food at the table and then opening my eyes again, when I came when I came out of being out of that unconscious state, I opened my eyes and I'm laying down in a bed. But when I opened my eyes, the whole room was spinning. So I'm like, I remember being like, what is going on? I was drugged out. She drugged me out. So I was laying down on the bed and it was very hard for me to get from laying down to sitting up. So when I sat up, I noticed she had candles burning around the bed. There was candles burning around the bed. There was candles on, like, you guys know those shelves that you can hang up on the wall and you can put a candlestick up there or whatever. There was candles burning all over the room. I looked on the desk and there was incense burning. But I was drugged out, but I could feel in my spirit that something was wrong. And now after that day, it was the Lord that woke me up. She was I don't know.
Sacrifice you.
Listen, bro.
Ritual sacrifice. Listen,
there was a ritual that was happening in that house that night. And the Lord woke me up from a drug state. So when I got up and I sat up on the bed, she could hear me in there scrambling around, and she ran. I heard running in the hallway, but I was drugged out and I was trying to get my conscience. I couldn't stand up. So I'm sitting on the bed and I could hear running in the hallway because she could hear that I got up. Because when I got up, I knocked the pillow off and there was stuff on the side table right there I knocked off, so it created noise, so she heard me awake. When she ran in, she came and sat down next to me on the bed and was trying to get me to lay back down. So she was trying to get me to lay back down. She's like, just chill, just relax. What's the matter? Just lay down, relax. Like, she was trying to get me to go back to sleep again. And mind you, she wasn't in the clothes that I seen her with when I first went to her house. She was in some weird nightgown. She was in some weird nightgown. It was like a seductive nightgown. It was really weird.
Okay, so now different weather apps and stations are coming out saying that on the 10th of July, we will be witnessing a thunder moon. Now, essentially, this isn't some kind of celestial event, but they're dubbing it the name Thunder Moon because they're saying that throughout the month of July, we will be experiencing some crazy weather. We're going to be hearing the loudest, most thunderous rumbles that we have in years. Not just that, they're saying that historically, this could be one of the most catastrophic seasons that we have ever experienced. So they're dubbing it the name Thunder Moon. They're also stating that there will be 2 coinciding meteor showers, as well as a good view of the Milky Way, all before the end of July. I don't know what's to come, if this is just a warning sign to let you know just how bad the weather can get, but with the floods happening in Texas, as well as the lightning strikes, you never know what's going to happen. In fact, today, 3 people in a family were all struck by lightning at one time, once again in Florida. So the weather has been absolutely volatile.
Physical attack, 0%. Emotional attack, 100%.
What is one piece of information that you think everyone should know?
This is where we're going to talk about consciousness. Consciousness seems to be the foundation for the phenomenon. That is how humans perceive the phenomenon and how the phenomenon perceives humans. There seems to be a consciousness aspect to this. Aside from the nuts and bolts, even though UAPs may not have any nuts or bolts on the craft, but we call it that, but the structured craft, aside from the structured craft, that's just physics. That's just mechanical engineering. That's just material science. That can be all figured out. But how it works, there seems to be a consciousness aspect to it that we don't quite understand. And I'm hearing that more and more, particularly the way the phenomenon communicates with certain individuals and the way individuals can communicate with the phenomenon. So you have the human-initiated contact, the heist. You can have that, or using psionics, as Jake Barber's team is doing, to lure the craft down. That's a real thing because the Russians have already done it.
Do you think that that's... Because that to me sounds so insane. Because I just struggle with that concept. Because if you were an intelligent species, arguably vastly more intelligent than the people who are quote unquote summoning you or inviting you. Fool me once, shame on you, but fool me twice, shame on me. Like I these aren't fish. These are intelligent things. Surely they know that if they get in range, they're going to be taken down by some microwave cannon. Like, I mean, I'd be hard pressed to think that these intelligent beings would be willing to put themselves in a situation a second time to be drawn in. And to me, this, only my opinion, but seems like we might be interacting with some type of system rather. Because if you simulate war games and these things start appearing, that doesn't seem like an intelligently controlled thing it seems like a system. It seems like some type of immune response to our games that we're putting out there, because again, I don't think so. That's where I struggle with all of that. But you said that the Russians are doing this?
Well, the Russians have done it. Yeah, they've done what Jake Barber is doing now. They've already done it. And
where does that information come from?
It comes from a major general in the Russian Air Force, retired. He said that they were able to lure UAP down. And then when it came down, they were able to interact with the UAP just by body movements and thought.
Okay. And lure them in how? Using psionics or using nukes?
No, not nukes. No, it was like they were using electromagnetic signals. And
frequencies and
certain frequencies. I would say that 3 gigahertz is a magic frequency. For some reason, they respond to 3 gigahertz. The radar I talked to you about before, Neiman P, that is an S-band radar. It works just below 3 gigahertz. It's a very wideband signal below 3 gigahertz. It seems to be, and the craft followed by the RB-47 that the late Dr. James McDonald wrote about, the RB-47 being a reconnaissance aircraft, they detected with their onboard signals collection systems a 3 gigahertz signal coming from that that they followed. There were 2 radars at White Sands testing the V2, and those radars, the SCR 587, they were called. It's a 3 gigahertz signal.
Interesting.
So 3 gigahertz for some reason seems to be the magic wavelength, frequency rather.
Yeah, or dog whistle.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
But according to this Major General, Alexeyev, they were able to lure down these craft and interact with them.
I mean, I'd like to see it happen.
Yeah.
And I wish them the best. I hope that this is something that can be made public and can be shared with everybody.
Yeah, and I have classified sources documenting
interactions,
that type of interaction, but I can't talk about it because
it's classified.
Well, it is classified, and I kind of alluded to it in previous interviews. I laid it all out for the Age of Disclosure film that I did not appear in, but I participated in the making of that film. They ran up against a time constraint, and so they had to cut 4 hours down to something that would fit at the South by Southwest conference. Yeah. And so I was able to corroborate that, what they did, and explained it a little further, but I'm hesitant to do it now because that film provided us with a top cover, that if I say that when there's the now Secretary of State on there and senators and congresspeople and these other high-level officials like Jim Clapper all saying things like that, I felt more comfortable saying that.
I'm telling my wife this stuff. She said, Lee, don't you remember what happened to my dad? And I'd forgotten. Her dad died about, 15 years, 20 years ago. And just before he died, she went to visit him in hospice. And here he is in his deathbed. She walks in. He's agitated. And he says, where's Marge? Where's Marge? And what do you mean, where's Marge? What? She was just here. I was just talking to her, talking about eternity. Where is Marge? She was just here. Marge was his sister. She had died 2 days earlier, but nobody had told him yet. And yet here he is having a conversation with her on his deathbed. something is going on there. And these deathbed, another form of corroboration, two things. Number one, the fact that they're so common, I think, argues for their legitimacy. The other one comes from children who are dying. Think of this. For a child of 5 years old, 6 years old, or whatever, what is their image of an angel? Well, like a cartoon. Big wings, maybe feathery, but certainly big wings. That's not what dying children see. In the Bible, Jesus tells the story about a rich man who had ignored the poor during his life and a beggar who both died. The rich man went to a place of torment. The beggar went to a place of bliss. But in verse 22, it says that angels carried him to that place of bliss. And so often, the deathbed vision that people have are angels coming for them. Now, go back to children who are dying. We have cases documented, one particular doctoral dissertation about a little girl who was dying, and she says to her mommy, "Mommy, can you see them?" "What, honey, what?" "The angels, they're here in this room. Oh, they're so beautiful. Look at their eyes. Oh, they're singing. It's so wonderful. I'm going with them, Mommy." And her mother didn't want to disappoint her, so she said, "Oh, yeah, I see them. Look at their big wings." And the little girl said, "Oh, Mommy, you don't have to lie. They don't have big wings." And she went on to describe them in great detail, because angels don't have big wings. So
in the Renaissance paintings.
Yeah, in the Renaissance paintings. By the way, the most famous atheist in Canada, Charles Templeton, who was Billy Graham's pulpit partner, who lost his faith at a liberal seminary, became an atheist, agnostic at least, but he wrote an ugly book called Farewell to God, My Reasons for Rejecting the Christian Faith. And I became friends with him because I did a book answering all his objections to the faith called The Case for Faith. So I interviewed him, and we got to be friends and so forth. Several years passed, and his friends believe he came back to faith in Jesus. On his deathbed, this was in the Toronto newspaper on the front page, on his deathbed, he says to his wife, "Madeline, can you see them?" "What, Chuck? What are you talking about?" "The angels. They're here. I'm going with them. I'm going to heaven. Oh, they're so beautiful. You can't. They're right in this room. You can't see them." And then he died. Very interesting. This is an extremely common experience.
At the same time, I mean, you actually lived in Antarctica.
And that a lot of that didn't start until I was full-time, until I was older. But Sue was having my memories of being in underground places where there were huge giants and evil beings. See, the Rothschilds, Baron Guy, they had huge underground and off-planet places where they created hybrid beings. They created genetically engineered human, animal, everything that's supposed to be going to come on the earth has already been created, and they are giants. So a lot of my job as a little girl, and I've had a lot of memories of Miriam Rothschild, and I worked with her sometimes, but a lot, she was involved, probably program too now, I understand, but in these, taking care of all these glass, this is all the stuff Sue started having leak memories, glass tubes with air coming into it with all these beings in it, and some of them are babies, some of them are humans, and they're still being, I don't know, this is very gross, but they actually breed human babies to feed to these evil giant entities that they plan on releasing at the end times to kill everyone, and they're full of demons. Created hybrids that look like giants or dinosaurs, or, you know, a man and a dinosaur, you know, every kind of freaky thing you could imagine. And you fill it with demons and set it loose. One thing I wanted to say is that they told my sister she would never stop trying to defect. She would never, once she got a little glimpse of the memory that this was going on, she wouldn't stop. I mean, she left everything. She left her family. She left everything to get free. They kept telling her, if you would just stop trying to defect, we will take you on the ISS, the International Space Station, when we create the cataclysm that takes everyone out. And Sue looked at them and she said, I'd rather die here with all these people than go with you. what they've created on that side is hugely demonic. Satan has everybody so fooled, and people don't know what's coming, and the church has no clue, and the church is dumbed down.
And that's a wrap for today, fool. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, don't forget to hit and smash the like button for me, smash that subscribe button, be part of the family. Remember, stay woke, and I'll catch you next time.